Hello there, and good to be with you once again. I'm Howard Bentham, and this is OxTalks, the podcast powered by Enterprise Oxfordshire, the new name for Oxlab. Enterprise Oxfordshire now benefits from the support of Oxfordshire County Council, enabling it to continue the great work previously offered by what was the county's local enterprise partnership. For those of us who know Oxfordshire well, it's no secret that it's blessed with some amazing innovators and leaders. OxTalks gives you the opportunity to meet these incredible people and hear their ideas on current issues in business. Enterprise Oxfordshire is delighted and proud to have viewers and listeners to OxTalks from up and down the UK as well as overseas, and we always welcome comments, feedback and suggestions. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the topics we discuss on our social channels. We are at Enterprise Oxon on X and Enterprise Oxfordshire on LinkedIn. This series also sees the launch of our new official OxTalks Instagram account, home to dedicated clips, news and all things OxTalks. Be sure to follow along at OxTalks_podcast. You can also email us by using the email address on the podcast description. In this edition, we'll explore what makes a good modern business leader, the challenges they may face and how to overcome them. Indeed, how workplace practices have changed the art of leadership in recent times. Everyone listening to this podcast will likely have a personal story about working for a terrible boss or within an awful workplace culture. This will almost certainly have stemmed from poor leadership in that organisation. According to the Chartered Management Institute, over 80% of those who entered a management role should be categorised as accidental managers, as they've received no formal leadership or management training. Only just over 1/4 of UK employees rated their manager as highly effective in 2024. And as a Guardian headline from the year before proclaims, bad management has prompted more than 1 in 3 workers to quit. Are we not taking management training seriously enough in this country? How much wealth is the UK economy losing because business leadership is perceived to be so poor? Are we over-promoting average managers in organisations full of dead wood? Equally, many who are given the opportunity to lead teams consider this responsibility as their top work priority. A happy team surely means better results for all. Our OxTalks guest can provide some real insight into this. She's a member of the International Coaching Federation and executive coach in her own training organisation, helping create high-performing leadership teams. Her impressive list of clients includes Unipart, Virgin and Invesco. I'm delighted to welcome to OxTalks Claire Croft. Great to speak with you, Claire. Thank you very much for coming to talk to us. I think you and your background is absolutely fascinating and what you do day to day at Claire Croft Associates. But before we explore any of that, can you describe the ideal manager for us? Perhaps one you've either worked for, coached, try and paint that picture so we can sort of, in our mind's eye, see the profile of that person.
So an annoying first answer. There is no one such thing, because I think the key to brilliant management is showing up as yourself, grounded in who you are, what you bring to the work that you're there to do, and with a real sense of clarity and purpose of the impact you want to have with your people and within your business. So that can show up in many, many different ways. So I start from a place of it needs to be unique, but there are some traits that are really valuable for any manager to bring to their work. The first one for me is transparency. The willingness to be open with your people about the business and what is happening, not to share endless financial information, of course, but the honesty about the state of the business, where it's going, what the challenges are, what the opportunities are. Open dialogue is really, really key. A willingness to provide clarity on what performance looks and means like to you as the manager. So often managers will talk about what needs to be done, but not how they would expect and like it to be done. And having that confidence to set out your standards and expectations so that people know what good looks like, it helps them to perform. And then I think it's about being willing to not look at what's right in front of you with your people, but what they could become, and seeing that potential and being willing to invest your time and energy in supporting them to get there. I would say they would be 3 key attributes, but really showing up with your own sense of self is absolutely critical.
I'm always intrigued, especially when you talk to people that are involved in training, if you like, that what you've typically found in your experience. I mean, over your career, have you had some good and some very poor managers?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprisingly lucky. I had a lot of good managers, and when I had bad ones, I left. I'm not a very tolerant person in that regard. I'm a collaborator. I need to be with people where we're in it together. And when I work for managers who take that view, I thrive. And when I don't, I really flounder. I'm not very hierarchical. So the people I have really valued working with and for are the people who want to share their knowledge and expertise with their people. They take the view that they want their people to be as good or if not better than them. So they are lifting people. I just love that kind of quality in a manager and then in a leader. And the leaders and managers I have really thoroughly enjoyed working with are the ones that are willing to take the time to share not just the what, but the why. So you always understand the context of your work. And actually, these days, that's very important to a lot of people. The bad managers I have left, they've been in that category of self-protective, and they want to protect their status and their position. And it leads to really unhelpful behaviours that, for me, damage trust. And if I can't trust you, I can't work for you.
All very, very fair points. In just that stat I mentioned in the introduction, the landscape described by the Chartered Management Institute of 80+% of accidental managers promoted above their abilities, with the majority of the workforce unimpressed with their boss's abilities. Is that one you recognise? Are the CMI right?
Well, I think they are, because ultimately numbers don't lie, right? It's really hard in my work because ultimately I get to work with the enlightened. And what I mean by that is I get to work with people who want to be better tomorrow than they were yesterday. You know, they want to invest in their self-development. However, of course, the people I work with lots of other people as well. And you see it right at the top of organizations. People have got to very, very senior positions, not because of their ability to lead and manage people, but because of their ability to make money for the business. So you do experience people right at the very top of their game. The business is thriving, but there's bodies on the battlefield. You know, they leave a trail of destruction.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things in the world of work is we have not got the balance right yet of valuing commercial success with human success.
What are the biggest issues then with managers and workplace cultures in the UK, do you think? I mean, again, just touching on something you've said there, maybe context that without sort of historically poor productivity in this country.
So I think what has always been a challenge and has escalated since COVID is bias to action. So weirdly, one of the most devalued activities in the world of work is thinking.
Right.
So people have a bit of a ready, fire, aim approach to their work. So the numbers come in, the targets come in, and we must go and we must start delivering. And what we don't prize is the stop and think and evaluate how best might we achieve that. And the problem is people have a really distorted relationship with time in the world of work. We haven't got time to think, we need to get going. And yet they've got all the time in the world to clear up the mess that results from doing the wrong thing in the wrong way at the wrong time. And I see this a lot with my clients, and it's one of the things we work on so much. It's almost like that sort of SAS mindset. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you can focus up front on what is the problem we're actually trying to solve, or what is the opportunity we're trying to capitalize on, and how can we best go about achieving that, you fly. And you get to your results quicker and better, and with people in a much better place as well, because there's clarity that comes from thinking rather than just doing.
That's fascinating. A little bit about you then, Claire. I mean, when did your interest peak in sort of understanding what makes people, and I guess ultimately managers tick. Psychology, wasn't it? I think you did at university.
Yeah, so it wasn't, I never started from a place of wanting to understand leaders and managers.
Right.
It came from the fact that Cracker was on the telly. Do you remember Cracker?
I do. Yeah. That was fantastic. Yeah.
I loved Cracker. So my initial aspiration in understanding people was I wanted to be a criminal psychologist.
You wanted to be Robbie Coltrane when you grow up.
Yeah. And I was fascinated by why do people commit crimes. So that was the path I initially pursued in my career. And I worked in a Category A high security prison in the psychology department, straight out of uni. Very quickly realised the system wasn't about rehabilitation. It was about meet the numbers, right? Just get them through the programmes. I realised it probably wasn't for me. Maybe I was young and idealistic, but I wanted to solve everybody's problems at that stage in my life. And I just stumbled into a job because I needed to earn some money in a Chamber of Commerce in their marketing department, in their membership department. And then I sort of it just rolled from there. And the only thing I was ever really, really good at work was helping people work together. And it just grew and grew as a bit of a passion of mine that any business, if you boil it down, all its success is dependent upon is the quality of conversations that happen within it, between the people who are within it. That's all it is. And unfortunately, not everybody's great at having great conversations. So it sort of just blossomed from there, really.
Yeah. So would you describe it as a passion, this love of leadership?
It is. And it comes from a belief that was instilled with me very early in life, really, that leadership, you're not responsible for a company of 80 people. You're responsible for 80 families. Like how you show up as a leader, it has a ripple effect. So if I'm working for somebody who is engaging in negative behaviours, that impacts me. And I go home and I take that impact home, and that impacts my marriage or it impacts my children. So leadership, its impact is so far beyond just the office in which it takes place.
Give us a quick whistle-stop tour, because you weren't in prison, but working in prison. So from prison to Chambers of Commerce, I think Royal Mail.
So Royal Mail, I joined their graduate training programme, did their above-the-line marketing, B2B marketing for 4 years. And I switched to agency side. So I worked then in creative agencies for 15 odd years, and I loved it. I worked in strategy, worked with all sorts of amazing brands, from BBC to BMW to O2 to Great Ormond Street Hospital, literally the full gamut of sectors and businesses. And my job was to help clients work out how do we inspire our consumers to engage with us as a brand. And that's psychology, So psychology has always been in my career, and working out how do you understand people and inspire them to engage in positive ways. I've just done it in really different environments. And then I eventually moved into coaching in 2011.
Was that a big leap of faith?
Sort of. I burnt out and I got very ill in 2011. And I was kind of like, I can't keep working the way I'm working. What do I want to do differently? And I realised at that point, the thing that did fire me up was helping people work really well together to achieve goals, both in my agencies and with my clients. So I then transitioned my career for 2 years where I was doing coaching work and I was still doing strategy within an agency. Wow. So it wasn't like a baptism of fire. I then went into a full-time talent role at M&C Saatchi. And then I was like, right, okay, I need to put my money where my mouth is, because I love coaching. I love what I do. And that's when I set up on my own. So actually in February, I'll be 10 years old in my business.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
A big part of what you do is managing change, either getting managers to change or manage change within an organisation. As you say, it's 10 years you've been running Claire Croft Associates. How has that corporate landscape changed?
Oh, God, immeasurably, actually. I think immeasurably and not at all. Prior to COVID, a lot of the change work that we were doing was coming from within the organisation. So organisations wanting to drive themselves forward in different directions. Yeah. COVID hit, and of course, you didn't have a choice. You had to change. And actually, since COVID, the world has just bombarded businesses with challenges and complexities, which means that change, it isn't an option anymore. And actually, change isn't change anymore. Change is the normal. Change is the baseline. So now it's really about how do you become a really adaptable, innovative, collaborative organisation that is fit for a world that is constantly going to offer you curveballs.
Gosh, that really is sort of shifting sands, isn't it, all the time? That must be quite hard to coach.
Well, it is, but the relationship with change psychologically isn't that different. Everyone hates it, right?
Yeah, this is the point. Yeah. As a default position, most people don't like change.
Well, yes and no. We actually do like change as human beings, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have evolved in the way that we have,
Sure.
right? We are programmed to progress. That's how we operate. What we don't like is change being done to us. And leadership right now, because of how complicated it is not always as strong as it needs to be at bringing people into the change it needs to achieve. So decisions get made at the top about where we need to go, how we need to go there, and they get pushed down. And quite often, leadership is disconnected from the reality of the shop floor. So you can have all the aspirations you want, but you have to meet the reality and help the reality move to a new place. So if you don't fully understand what your current culture is, or what your current ways of working are, you can want everything you want, but it won't get there. Or it might get there, but it will be really, really hard work. It will consume more time, more energy, more resource than it needs to. So I think the relationship with change that businesses need to get to is, it is our normal. How do we work together to embrace it and work together through it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. But that's a conversation that needs to be had with the shop floor as much as it needs to be had with the management, I guess, does it?
Absolutely. You know, as I said earlier, all a business is conversation. And if you can bring the voices across the business into change, then you can get to a better place because you know what it's going to realistically take. You know, a lot of the work I do over in Corporate Punk is about diagnosing where is your culture actually at. So what factors are in play that are going to help you, and what barriers are in play that you're going to need to address if you want to achieve your goals.
Really fascinating. Just on the setup of Claire Croft Associates 10 years ago, as you say, was that a hard thing to get going? You sort of had a soft launch into it, didn't you? Say a couple of years of working it.
Yeah.
What was the sort of thing that fired it up? Networking, business support? What was it?
Actually, my network. I mean, I was very, very lucky. I don't know how much you know about creative agencies, but it's a very collaborative world, and you do build really good relationships with the people you work with in advertising, both within the agency and with your clients. And so when I made the leap to set up my own business, I just told people I was doing it. And I just met with lots of people and said, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is the contribution I'm trying to make to potential clients. And I was really fortunate that people believed in me and backed me and took me on and offered me opportunities. So I will always be eternally grateful to the people I had worked with for 15, 16 years, that they saw that they believed I could do this, you know?
Claire, thank you for the moment. We'll chat again shortly. You're listening to OxTalks, the podcast powered by Enterprise Oxfordshire. Feel free to get in touch with the Enterprise Oxfordshire team to comment on what you've been hearing. You can find us on social media. We're on X at Enterprise Oxon, or via LinkedIn. Search for Enterprise Oxfordshire. And now via our new official OxTalks Instagram account, where you'll find clips, news, and all things OxTalks. Be sure to follow along at OxTalks_podcast. Perhaps you run a company or organisation that's looking for some specific help, or simply need a pointer towards the most appropriate business advice available. Why not try the Enterprise Oxfordshire Business Support Tool?
Enterprise Oxfordshire's Business Support Tool is here to help your company. whether you are just starting out, growing, or ready to take on a new business challenge. If you are looking for the latest advice and support, complete our business support tool today and get set to receive a bespoke action plan for your organisation. Head to enterpriseoxfordshire.com to find out more.
Let's speak more with Claire Croft from Claire Croft Associates, who develop effective leaders in business. Let's think about what constitutes a good leader in today's workplace and more importantly, how you coach them. I think this is fascinating. I've got my teacher head on here. I guess identifying the problems and issues within an organisation is probably where you start, is it? I'm imagining.
The start point really is, why did you think about talking to a coach? You know, it's as simple as that. Because ultimately they have contacted me to come in and have a conversation. And that as a start point, they know that something needs addressing. Like sometimes they can be very clear and they're kind of like, we're a new leadership team. We want to come together. We want to ensure that we're establishing the right ways of working from the outset. That's a clear brief. Yeah. More often, and this is both teams and individuals, it's a situation where they're just feeling like we're not making, or I'm not making the kind of impact or the kind of progress that I both want and need to be making. And that then becomes a process of discovery of, well, what's preventing it? And it's really different for different people. And my job is to create an environment where the quality of conversation can take place. Now, with an individual, that's not just with me, it's with themselves. Asking themselves and getting to understand what is it they really think and feel. What are the belief systems that they have got in play that are helping or hindering them? What are the latent memories and experiences that might be getting in the way of them showing up as their true self? And within teams, it's really about them getting to a place where they do know why they're not working. Teams always know what's getting in the way, really. You just got to create an environment where it feels safe to say it. And that's the biggest barrier a lot of the time.
That potentially is criticising your line manager or the boss.
Or your peers as well.
Right.
You know, and it's not a particularly safe place always to be in an executive team. You know, you do get high churn in exec teams because performance and delivering is your job. That's what you're expected to do.
So how does that training look then? How do you get those people to basically be that honest and that frank that the problem is him, her?
Well, we start from a place of, we talk about it as a collective entity, right? So all behaviours are impacting. So every relationship's co-created. It's never one person's fault. It's how you have established the dynamics within your team and the interplays that are happening between members that are getting in the way. So the most important thing is it's no one's fault.
But the world is a blame game, isn't it, in many ways?
Yeah, and that's because, well, most businesses say they embrace failure right up until the point of failure, and then absolutely the blame game comes out. My job in that moment is to point out that it is no one's fault. For example, if somebody has been, for some time, withholding information that would help other departments, well, I would ask you, why haven't you challenged that? Why is it I'm sat in a room with you and this is now being brought up? So I'm quite firm with my clients. I will never, ever allow one person to be the problem because you are a system. You're a collective. Yeah. And if there are bad behaviours, you're all permitting the bad behaviours, right? Now, you are seriously senior people. So why aren't we challenging it? Or why aren't we supporting one another? Right? To show up differently. So there's never, on my watch, blame. There is collective responsibility, but there's never blame.
It's really interesting how you frame that and how that works. And does that work in across different cultures, different sized businesses? I'm trying to think. You talked about failure in America, for example. In the US, a failing business is just another step on the way to a successful business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's viewed in a very different way, I think. But how does that play out culturally? How does that play out in public-private sector? How does that play out in SMEs to large multinationals?
Oh God, it's so unique to each business. You couldn't say an FS business in the UK is different to an FS business in the US because. Now, what you do have is consistently different. For example, America, hope and optimism run the country, but so does low-level paranoia, right? Because they will, if you get sacked in America, you're done, right? In the UK, we run on negativity and pessimism.
Yes.
Right? But there is a higher level of sense of safety. It's not, over the top strong, but we tend to think we could maybe work through our problems. So it's all unique within each team, in each business. But I would say the thing that I see in the UK at the moment compared to my US clients is that the relationship with risk-taking is different. So I think we have become more risk-averse in the UK, but really understandably so. And my God, public sector compared to private sector, of course, because the scrutiny in public sector is so much higher. I mean, BBC used to be one of my clients. And at any moment, a freedom of information request can come in that can be really damaging, potentially. So you see different relationships with risk even within the UK, but I think overall, our relationship with ambiguity is what really needs to improve. Because if we can cope with the fact that we don't know what's coming next, if we can get more confident in our own worth and our own abilities, then we can keep moving forward. And I think you have seen some paralysis in the UK in the last 12 months, not helped by, budget announcements being really, really detrimental to the performance of UK businesses. But with no bravery and no risk-taking, there's no progress. And I think that's probably something that if I was, looking at what I will be working with my clients on in the coming year, that will be one of the areas we will be working on.
Share a few case studies or examples where you feel you've really made a difference and you've seen a business fly after you've been in.
So we worked with one organisation. I can never talk about who they are, obviously. But they were a really successful creative agency, but had been stuck at a certain revenue level for about 5 years. They needed to grow because they were considering selling. And I must say this was something I did with my partner Phil over in Corporate Punk. We did a blended kind of corporate punk and coaching program of work with them. But working with the two founders of the business was really about how are you unlocking the talent in your business versus protecting it. So really rarely the situation was they were a very, very kind pair of leaders, but they were doing way too much in their business. So they had all these people who they were paying really good salaries, who are really talented, really experienced people, and they were rescuing them constantly. And the problem when you rescue people is performance dips, because what's the point in me pushing because I'm only going to get rescued anyway? Yeah. And so we worked on them being better at letting people get on with their jobs, letting them take some risks, letting them balls up a little bit, quite frankly. And in doing that, they doubled their revenue within 2 years. And then they've sold their business.
That's interesting. So it's about giving people enough responsibility and authority to
autonomy. Yeah. People will always step up. People will always step up. I think sometimes we are in a bit of a narrative at the moment that people don't want to work. I fundamentally reject that as a notion. People want to work differently. People want to be trusted to do their work. People want to be empowered to do their work. to do that successfully, they need absolute clarity from the top. And that is something that I think is probably a development area for a lot of leaders. So, yeah, I think if you can step back and allow your people to bring to bear the talent you hired for them, your business will improve.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because with the way things have changed since COVID, for example, working from home, working in the office, changing work hours have changed, and it seems certainly in this country that the tendency is now to get people back in the office.
Yep.
And the autonomy side of things maybe is dropping away. Is that what you're finding?
I'm not sure we ever cracked autonomy, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I really don't think we did. I think you either have controlling, command and control, or you have abandonment, right? So you'll get a lot of leaders say, yeah, I've given my people loads of autonomy. No, you haven't. You just are not leading or managing them to set them up for success. So they let them go so far. Invariably, the person doesn't deliver either in the way that was expected or to the standards. And then that person's gone from hero to zero. Right? We do not do autonomy well. We do not create the conditions for autonomy to be successful.
Is that because the managers above those managers that have been given the autonomy don't understand how to quantify that and how to allow that to happen in such a way that it is going to double the turnover or the size of the business?
Yeah. And look, the point you made earlier is kind of one of the reasons why I don't judge managers or leaders harshly, because so few people get the developmental support they need when they step up into management and then when they step up into leadership.
There isn't the training. That is not happening then day to day.
I can't say that universally. Of course you can't. I think there are some businesses doing really great work on this. The challenge is quite often when times are tough, one of the first budget lines to get cut is learning and development. Right. And I do think you have got generationally people who have been promoted not because they were ready for management or leadership, but because they delivered quantitative results for the business. Now, that is a form of performance. Of course it is. But that doesn't interrogate the how did you get there? How did you deliver those numbers? And so it's down to luck. Did you deliver them because you did what you needed to do for you to succeed regardless of others? Or did you do it because you collaborated really successfully with your colleagues, that you have really great emotional intelligence and you build great client relationships? It doesn't interrogate the qualities that are needed for successful leadership.
Again, I rewind in my life back to early days of teaching, school teaching, and good teachers ended up going into management, but just because you're a good teacher doesn't make you a great manager.
Well, in a way, I would predict it's like guaranteed you're not, because teaching is telling. Managing is pulling it out of the person, right? It's giving them some insight, but then it's coaching the capability out of your employee. It's believing in their innate ability or experience to do what you want them to do. So you can't tell someone exactly what needs to be done. You have to help them explore it for themselves as well. And that's about open dialogue and discussion. And it's a form of negotiation in a way. So I would like you to do X, Y, and Z with these kinds of parameters. What do you need to feel confident to say yes to doing that? Well, I need X, Y, and Z, right? It is a negotiation, but I don't think we often see it that way.
You touched on emotional intelligence, which I think is another fascinating area of management. Are some leaders born and others made?
I think all leaders are made. I think they're all made. I think emotional intelligence, I think the people forget that emotional intelligence are capabilities, so they're learnable. I can learn to be optimistic. I can learn to be adaptable, right? What I can't learn is to have really good values.
Where does human nature fit into that, if there is indeed such a thing as human nature?
Well, it's really difficult to ask a coach that question.
This is like your psychology dissertation coming back to life and haunt you.
Well, it's no. It's fine. I think the difficult thing is you can't be a coach if you don't believe in people's ability to change and evolve and grow and become more than they are. But of course we are all run by programs, by our lived experience, my God, even as we live now, they've proven our genetics evolve while we're alive, right? So we are capable of change. I would just like to make that really clear. But it's about, are you awake at the wheel or are you asleep at the wheel? Because, for example, right, I have quite a high relationship with control. And the reason I have a high relationship with control is because I was a chronic asthmatic as a kid. And somebody used to say to me, come on, get control, get control. So it's a life or death thing to me. If I'm not in control, I might not be safe. Funnily enough, I've now worked on that and I'm not quite such a control freak, but I'm awake at the wheel. But if I'm asleep at the wheel, then I am just being driven by these shortcuts that my brain has to have to help me get through the day. If I had to cognitively process everything, I'd be shattered. So there is nature, but you could be nurtured to be more than you were yesterday, for sure. Just a choice.
Genuinely interesting. What are the values and attributes then today's leaders must possess?
One of my clients laughed at me just before Christmas about this. Basically, everybody needs to become like Bruce Lee, in my personal opinion.
Okay, right.
Best leadership book you'll ever read is The Warrior Within, The Philosophies of Bruce Lee. And in it talks about, I think it's Taoism, it's where it comes from, is work with the energy coming at you, not against it. So don't be the oak. So in a storm, an oak tree will fall because it stands firm and the energy will hit it till eventually it falls. Whereas the willow tree blows and moves with the energy coming at it and it survives. And I think there is so much energy coming at leaders right now that the ones that are going to really survive and thrive are going to be the ones that accept that that is the case and they work with it rather than against it. Classic example, different generations in the workplace. Stop moaning about the fact that young people are different. Work out what does that mean for you as a leader that you need to do differently. That's what I mean when I say work with the energy that's coming at you. I think the other thing is strengthen your relationship with ambiguity. If you can get to acceptance that we are always going to have a lot of unknowns right now, you will work better because you will be more open to the signs of what you need to do differently rather than clinging on to, but this is what I know. And it worked for lots and lots of years. I just wish we could keep this. If you will not open your mind to the fact that things are coming and they're different, then you are really going to struggle.
Does the gender of a leader matter?
Well, they bring different qualities generally. If you looked at it through the lens of emotional intelligence, then men will present more strongly on confidence and straightforwardness, whereas women will present more strongly on empathy and adaptability, right? So I am not a big fan of the what's best, a man or a woman debate. I think deal with the human being, the individual in front of you and work out, are they the right person for what it is we are hoping to achieve as an organisation? What I would say is at a very human level, kindness needs to be injected back in to how we work. We saw it in COVID and it's been stripped bare. And the reason it's been stripped bare is because of how difficult things are. So again, no criticism, no judgment, but we are so in the grip of how do we navigate the complexity we're in, we are forgetting kindness.
The treating others how you'd like to be treated yourself type approach, which actually isn't rocket science.
It's not rocket science. And I sort of take that and then I build on it and I go, treat them how they want to be treated. You know, understand your people, understand what they need from the world of work in order to be great contributors. So kindness is not soft. Kindness is hard because if I'm being kind, I will sit you down and tell you that you are not having the kind of impact that I know you really want to have. I will give you the difficult feedback because that's the kind thing to do. If I don't tell you, you've got no choices. You can't choose to evolve how you show up. So kindness is not a soft concept when I talk about it. It is about caring, it's about support, but it's also let's do the difficult stuff together.
You've got to also put that in with the bottom line in business as well. I mean, share price, shareholders, owner pressure, whatever it might be, and you're asking a leader to do the right thing and be kind. Sometimes those two things just are not compatible.
Well, it depends on what your belief system is around happy people, happy results, right? Now, there is so much research out there about the impact an organizational culture has on commercial performance. And it's unequivocal that if you create the right cultural conditions, then your business succeeds. Now, what makes a culture? People. And people need to feel valued. They need to feel seen. They need to feel heard. Pretty straightforward human needs, right? And your job as a leader is to create a culture in which that is possible, is my personal view.
Creating a culture or changing a culture, where do you start with that? It's gone bad. So this is your brief. My business, it was great. It's now gone bad. The culture's terrible. It's toxic. How do you start to fix something like that?
Well, my job's not to fix.
Well, what would you advise to fix something like that?
So my job is, I think the job is not to go in with the mindset of how do I fix it, is to go in with the mindset of how can you together work together in a way to move your culture forward in a new direction. So a lot of the time when we're working in culture challenges, there is diagnosis that needs to be done. You've got to get under the skin of why is the culture toxic? What is getting in the way? Because if you don't diagnose the causes, then you can't help people work out, well, what do you need to do differently? So when we work on that, it's a diagnostic stage first. Now, people will talk to us and tell us what's really going on. And you only really need to talk to 5 or 6 people in a business to get a picture. There are always common themes. And then it's about paint a picture of what a positive culture looks like to you, and then how do you bring your people into working with you to create that. Now, a lot of the time people think culture is bean bags and beer fridges, and it's really not. It's just how are we showing up to work together day in, day out? How do we navigate the complexity of our work? How do we allow talent to flow where it needs to go? How do we set contextual clarity in our organisation? How do we navigate conflict in our organisation? So really, when we're in culture change, the job is to start fostering different conversations. And the way you do that is not in some abstract way where you're teaching them. You get them working on stuff. You find real business projects that need to be worked on, and then you're working with them to inspire them to work and collaborate differently on those projects, to have different quality conversations, to work out for themselves what behaviours would be most valuable to bring to that particular project and how they show up. So it is a really unique journey for every organisation. But my responsibility is not to do it for them. My responsibility is to help them create it for themselves. And sometimes that does involve working with the leadership right from the very top in a more discreet way, where you are helping them to evaluate how their leadership is either enabling or blocking the success that they want.
Any thoughts or experiences on how AI is going to change leadership?
Well, I mean, I only read something yesterday, so it'll have changed today. My very strong sense is that, do you remember like when the internet came along? Right, so I was in creative agencies at that time, and clients were like, I want a website. The answer is a website. What's the question? Dunno, just want a website. I think we're in that stage with AI.
Okay.
I want AI. Well, why do you want it? Right. So I think if you cannot sit and articulate to your shareholders or your people how the AI you are investing in aligns with your business strategy, you are on the Me Too wagon. You're just doing it because you think you should have it. So first of all, get strategic about AI. What is it there to contribute to your business? Second of all, I think don't make it a closed door conversation, because that is driving fear into the hearts of your people that they are about to be replaced. And secondly, think about how can AI be used in your business to unlock all of the brilliance that is within your people. Now, jobs will go. There's no point putting lipstick on that particular pig. But let's not go too far where we are just cutting jobs and then going, we don't actually now know how to do what we need to do. So what could your talent be doing if it was freed of certain jobs that actually aren't that additive to their salary, right? You know, if you're paying somebody 50 grand and they're doing spreadsheets, well, is that the best use of their time? No, they're probably really good at other activities. So I see it being an integration rather than an out and out replacement. And if the self-service tills at supermarkets can teach us anything, is you can bring all the tech you need, you still need people to manage it.
We're unfortunately going to have to bring our conversation to a close, Claire, but for people listening, businesses large, small, a takeaway or two from our conversation, what would that be?
This year, please prize communication with your people above everything else you do. In the absence of communication, people will make up the worst case scenario. And in that case, you are driving fear and you're suppressing people's ability to perform. So communicate with your people. And if you are a leader, if you are a manager, make sure you're doing the work on yourself so that you can show up as well as possible, because it is hard to occupy these positions right now. So make sure you are fueling your tank as well as you go through the year ahead. I think they would be two major things. Oh, and just get comfortable with the fact that it is going to continue to be a really wonderfully complicated world out there, and acceptance, and channel your inner Bruce Lee and you should be all right.
It's been a joy to talk to you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Huge thanks to Claire Croft from Claire Croft Associates, and thank you for listening to OxTalks, now in its 4th series. There's now quite a back catalogue of previous editions of OxTalks available from where you normally get your podcasts. Please find time to listen to my conversation with Veena Virasamy, the founder of Oxford Creators, talking about alternative education provision, building up young people and supporting our future workforce. The edition with Liz Lewis-Jones from PR firm Liquid, focusing on growing your business through international expansion, is fascinating. And please tune in to hear Catherine Hurley-Arbib discussing how to launch a successful wellness brand in today's market. Every episode is well worth a listen. Please spread the word, tell your friends or colleagues about us, and if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. You can share your thoughts and suggestions on our social channels, and you can email your ideas for inclusion in future editions too. The address is on the podcast description. Business support in Oxfordshire is just a click or a call away. Enterprise Oxfordshire is at your service. The business support tool can signpost you to expert help in just a matter of minutes. Why not take a look? You can find it on our website, enterpriseoxfordshire.com. But for now, from the whole Enterprise Oxfordshire team and from me, Howard Bentham, it's goodbye.